Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Patrick Lovell coming to you on October 25th, 2022 at about 1:30 p.m. my time. And just a quick message to those of you who are wanting the lowdown on what's going to happen at the Federal Reserve on November 1st. So we've got the permits that are going to be available. I think the address is online, very easily obtainable. Let us know if you haven't seen it, and we'll get it to you. But the permit is from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. There's no tables, there's no electronic equipment. Pretty simple, bare bones. You show up, representing your truth with any placards you want to bring to be heard and seen. There's going to be a camera crew there, and we're doing an online rally at the same time. That's going to include all of the elements of the puzzle that are going to prove why homeowners who've gotten destroyed in the courts are human wreckage for a system of absolute insane corruption in which tens of trillions of dollars have gone to bury tens of millions of people, as we all know, illegally. The idea is that you've got to be able to have the human voice, the people, those who have suffered in the courts, those who have had their lives turned upside down, those who have had more misery than anyone can ever possibly imagine as a result of insane criminal fraud that worked every step of the way, not just on the front end, in every aspect that are supposed to be stopgap to have, what all banks are supposed to have, right? Which is safety and soundness. That was all thrown out the window in pursuit of hyena profit is the way I look at it, which is just the opposite of capitalism, because ultimately, within the context of capitalism, is you have risk reward. So if you have a lot of unnecessary risk, horrible stopgaps of framing in terms of underwriting and everything that goes into all of the elements of what constitutes what the pipeline is in this particular case of the housing aspect of it all, you realize every single stretch of the way was incentivized by perverse incentives to kick up profit above the line that ultimately collapsed like a house of cards around the world because it was the largest criminal conspiracy and cover-up in history that ultimately our government saved. And they saved it illegally using the full faith and credit of the United States to backstop bankrupt shadow banks that got that way because of insane criminal deception, all of which are felonies that if you kick it up like an organized crime that it is, i.e. a lot of people like to kick around the idea of RICO, yes, racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization. That's what the CEOs of Wall Street did. How can I say that without A, being thrown in jail, or C, quite frankly, being sued? Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever wondered why I can make these proclamations so declaratively without actually having some sort of piece of the machine coming after me? Because it's all the truth. Because I worked with the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Department of Justice, AGs around the country, and the Securities and Exchange Commission to put the evidence together, and I've got hundreds of hours more that I have had on the shelf because the system has been able to make sure that I don't get this information to the millions of people that need to hear it. Now, here's the problem. Many people that are the people that need to hear it, they don't care anymore. They have their lives train wrecked. They ended up losing everything. They don't want to be reminded of actually what happened. They don't want to know. They're trying to move on with their lives, and they're trying to pick up whatever pieces of the puzzle that they have left. But guess what? You can't outrun the machine of deception because it's in complete control. That's why I've reached out to a lot of other groups, like, for example, Occupy the Fed, different groups coming from the Northeast that are living within the Baltimore, D.C. corridor, or within the Beltway, as they say. And there's also African-American groups within the horrific, and tragic bulldozing that has happened for now years. And for example, places like Prince George's County, which is adjacent to the Beltway, I think that's the highest level of foreclosures or fraud closures to African Americans in the entire country. So those people are going to come. There's going to be other people from others outside of the group. We're going to be, we've got a camera crew there that is doing a documentary film, and ultimately we're going to conduct kind of in a produce, because that's what I am. I'm a producer. I'm an investigative journalist. It's going to be in concert in a kind of a symphony of all of the elements that the public needs to see. Now, a couple of things that you're not aware of is that I'm involved with some vectors, as I like to call them, heavy hitter influencers, top of the line media type people that are now allies, that are helping me push this thing out there. There's a couple of different steps that is going to happen, but if we play our cards right, we can actually work around this giant machine that has complete control of everything. I'm telling you, it's the board. Have you seen, one of my favorite movies, The Matrix? This is the board. It has complete control of the system. The media has lied to us for years. Yes, Donald Trump used the insane lack of credibility or character or honest journalism and reporting that the media did to use to his advantage because he doubled down on it. That's what this whole system does. I talk about it all the time. From an ideological point of view, it's corruption births fascism. But it's all about the United States government allowing the financial system to basically steal from everyone in the world. But they buried the middle class in the process. They killed the golden goose. And when they murdered the American dream, they were able to use the Federal Reserve and the full faith and credit in the United States in a backdoor maneuver that a 2-year-old could put together if they understood where to look and how it works. Fortunately, I did. And fortunately, I had the resources to go the distance. And fortunately, I have the tenacity to do it because I believe in liberty and justice and the integrity of law above all else. Why? Because I'm an American that has principles. That's the whole point. If you're a citizen and you don't have principles and you don't care about a freaking culture of financial deception that could destroy the fucking power of the American middle class and the American dream, then you're not a citizen. You're not. You're just somebody waiting for somebody else to actually ring the bell, go the distance, and make the freaking moves necessary so that you can actually get yours. I understand that. That's fine. No problem. Seriously, whatever it takes. I don't care. But I know that there's 1 in 10 of you, maybe 1 in 1,000 of you, maybe 1 in a million of you that are actual patriots, that actually have been through this process, that refuse to stay on your knees, and you will rise to the moment. Why? Because we've seen it over and over the last couple of years. Honestly, all of these social efforts, whether it's Black Lives Matter, honestly, whether it's Me Too, or yes, indeed, whether it's MAGA, they're all movements to try to be like, you've got to listen to the stuff that's happened to me, and I'm going to get to where I'm going no matter, come hell or high water. That's the whole the process here. So one thing I know is that this is not a right or left issue. This isn't ideology. It's simply crime. It's simply theft. It's simply deception. How many of you believe in right versus wrong? How many of you believe in good versus evil? How many of you sat in the movie theaters and saw a hero and you thought, well, I'm on that guy's side? I continue to think, you know what, really, what this is all about, to use a movie reference, is a vast majority of us literally we're rooting for Darth Vader and the Empire. Or they'd be like, yeah, I'm going to play ball with those guys. At least I'll stay out of the way. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is un-American. It's as un-American as it gets. But it was the other side of being an American is everybody wants to get paid. Now, here's the whole story. And I'll just say this to kind of dangle it out for all of the people who are like, what's in it for me? Look, I'm the only chance you've got. And I'll tell you why. Because I have people behind the scenes that are heavy, heavy power brokers, that are big, big white shoe law firms that came out of the Department of Justice that are interested in putting this whole thing together as a key team. What does that mean? Well, if you hadn't understood anything about what Lynn Sismoniak did to reveal what was happening in the States at the robo-signing level and what it led to, you understand that there's a 15% settlement for what what happened to the government. How many of you can right now, raise your hands, how many of you can tell me, because you've listened so intently and you've shared everything that I put together and you know my stuff inside and out because you know that I'm fighting for you, how many of you can tell me what the federal government, supposedly, it wasn't the federal government, by the way, and see, that's the whole smoke and mirrors, what the Federal Reserve used as the lender of last resort to plow into this bankrupt shadow sector that got that way through criminality. How much have I told you over and over and over did the Federal Reserve plow into this system to backstop the criminal engine that has deceived us all? How much? $29 trillion. That was by 2009, okay? Then in 2010, we started kicking in what's known as quantitative easing. If you listen to what I've been talking about and why we're going to the Fed, the quantitative easing bought the so-called toxic assets that the toxic financial system sets you all up to become foam on the runway. And then they blew you over and nobody talks about you. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about the world that you live in, that you lost your family, your house, everything else. They don't care. The question is, do you care about yourself? If you do, you will share the con, you will watch the con, you will study the con, because it's the only thing that puts the whole thing together. That took me years and years and millions of dollars to put us in a position to be able to prove this to the world. But what we need is a critical mass of people. And I got to tell you, I've got my doubts about people that are homeowners, because homeowners tend to be like, well, the court's going to look out for me and they're going to give me mine now. Meanwhile, I've been watching Bruce Jacobs, which is one of the most heroic, fraud closure defense attorneys that exist. I see him in front of the Bar Association, and the Bar Association may as well be, Harvey Weinstein's PR. Honestly, they're covering up the largest financial rape in history, and they're blaming a guy like Bruce Jacobs, who is a champion of justice and truth, and yet he's on trial. Get it? You're not going to win in a corrupt system. Every once in a while, somebody goes the distance, and I've met many of you, and you've done superhero stuff to get to a position where you finally got your house back, you finally got paid off, and what do? You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You can't tell the truth of what you knew and how it all turned out. Guys, probably thousands of people have that happened to. But guess how many people got foreclosed on? At least 16 million filed foreclosures by 2012. That impacts over 50 million people directly, based on the mean, household median in the country, roughly 48 million. But it could go up or down, and I think there was a lot more foreclosures than that, by the way. Okay, and what happened? Everybody got set up on what we show you in the con. Do you know what's in the con? Most of you don't, because I talk to you and you tell me all the time. You're like, yeah, I've seen the con. Okay, so what's in the con? What does it tell me? And you don't know what it says. If you did, you'd have a leg to stand on. By the way, the con makes your freaking entire suffering legitimate. So why are you going to stay on your knees any longer? Why are you going to wait for somebody else to help you? It's time for you to help yourself. That's what we're doing. We got people showing up, whether you show up or not. What you can do is show up on the online link that we're doing simultaneously. But more importantly, share the con, share the word, start coming together, start following people like Ann Chen, who are trying desperately to get everybody together so you can try to create the right legislation to be able to, stimulate a moratorium on fraud closures, which was supposed to happen after 2012. But guess what happened? They kept doing it. And how do you think they kept getting it done? It's called quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars went to the primary dealer brokers that wound up in private equity that paid servicers and foreclosure mills to bulldoze everybody so they could get away with the biggest crime and blowout in history. And it was all done on collateral that was worth nothing, which makes the whole thing illegal. I'm sorry I'm shouting, guys. It's time to wake the fuck up. It's time to own up. It's time to stop thinking about yourself, and it's time to start overwhelming corruption with the truth. When you have the truth, you're bulletproof. The truth is marching. Failure is not an option. It's not rocket science. It's racketeering. This has been the righteous grind, and I continue to drive with everything I've got because I believe, above all else, that liberty and justice and the integrity of law has got to matter more than lies. You know what? I can face my maker with that fucking juxtaposition. How about you? Onwards.